How's it going, everybody? My name's Zulu. Welcome back. Hope you had a fantastic new year. Let's make 2022 a special one. Today I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful French classic, the one and only Paris-Brest. Today we're doing a Hazelnut Paris-Brest. If you don't know what Paris-Brest is, it consists of choux pastry and a praline flavoured cream of some sort. A praline, if you didn't know, is basically nuts coated in a caramel and you just let that set in the brittle, and that's praline. And then you've got a choice. You can either eat it as it is, and that's just praline, or you can turn the praline into a paste, which tastes amazing, by the way. It tastes great. This does take a bit of effort, don't get me wrong, but hey, no pain, no gain. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this party started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the pâte. In other words, we're going to make the choux pastry. This is a very well-known pastry. You use it to make eclairs and profiteroles. They're the most popular. So into a medium-sized saucepan, combine together 50 grams of unsalted butter, 62 grams of water, 63 grams of whole milk, half a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste, and finally a fine pinch of sea salt equaling to around a gram's worth. Then heat it up over low heat until the butter is melted and it starts to come to the boil. Then turn the heat off, add in 75 grams of all-purpose flour, then place the gas over medium heat, mixing vigorously until it comes away from the sides of the pan and it forms a nice cohesive ball of dough, just like this. Then allow the dough to cool down for anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to allow it to drop to 50 degrees Celsius or below. That way the eggs are going to incorporate rather than scramble. Which is of course a big no-no. You do not want the eggs to scramble at any point. And you will need 2 eggs, preferably room temperature, and you're going to crack in one at a time, beating vigorously in between each addition, so that it incorporates evenly and it's nice and smooth. You want the dough to be pretty thick, so then you're able to pipe it. Now get yourself a piping bag, fit it with a star tip, and fill the pastry bag up with the choux pastry. And you want to make sure you fill your piping bag no more than 3/4 full, otherwise it's going to get real messy. And now on a tray, line some non-stick parchment paper, pipe 4 to 5 rings that has a diameter of 6 to 7 centimeters. If you want all the rings to be as even as possible, I recommend drawing a template on the back of the parchment paper, so then you've got a guide to work with and make your life a bit easier. And then you're going to put them in the freezer uncovered for a minimum of 4 hours, but preferably overnight, until frozen solid. Now next we're going to sort out the filling, the hazelnut praline mousseline. It's really simple and it tastes great. We're going to first make a creme patisserié, which if you don't know what a creme patisserié is, it is basically a custard thickened with starch. In my case, I like to use corn flour. So, get yourself a medium-sized saucepan and pour in 228 ml of whole milk with half a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste or vanilla extract. Then heat the milk up over medium-low heat, stirring every so often to avoid it from catching on the bottom of the pan, and once it starts to steam, remove from the heat to allow it to infuse. And now in the meantime, you want to separate 2 eggs, the yolks from the whites. And to the yolks, you want to add in 58 grams of caster sugar and 15 grams of corn flour. And then beat together until light and pale in colour, and when you lift the whisk, it should hold its shape. This is called the ribbon stage. Then you're going to add in a splash of the warm milk into the egg mixture and whisk until smooth. Then pour the egg mixture back into the saucepan with the rest of the milk and turn the heat up to medium, whisking it constantly until it starts to thicken. And then once it starts to bubble, set yourself a timer for 1 minute, whisking it constantly. This step is important, don't skip it. It's to dissolve a starch dissolving protein that's found in the egg yolks. And then once it's nice and thick and smooth, remove from the heat, and then you're going to whisk in 15 grams of unsalted butter until the butter is completely melted and thoroughly combined. Now get yourself a tray and line it with some cling film, then pour the custard onto the cling film, and then spread the custard out across the tray evenly. Cover that with some cling film, making sure the cling film has direct contact with the custard so that no skin's going to form, and pop that in the fridge overnight to make sure it's completely chilled. Now next is the hazelnut praline paste. So we've got to first make the hazelnut almond brittle, which is so simple to make. So into a medium-sized saucepan, combine together 70 grams of caster sugar, 45 ml of water, 60 grams of corn syrup or glucose syrup, whichever you can find. Then give that a quick mix to evenly distribute them ingredients. Then add in 60 grams of toasted blanched hazelnuts, and finally 60 grams of flaked almonds, which are also slightly toasted. Mix that together to make sure the syrup is evenly coated in the almonds and the hazelnuts. Place over low heat until it reaches 150 degrees Celsius, or until a golden brown colour if you don't have a thermometer at your disposal. And do me a favour, whilst it's cooking, don't stir. And then you're going to turn the gas off and quickly mix together to make sure the nuts are thoroughly coated in the caramel. You got to be pretty fast when doing this, as the sugar starts to get really sticky, and if you take too long, it sticks to the pan and it's an absolute nightmare to get off. I don't want to stress you out, but just do it as fast as you can. And tip it out onto a tray that's been lined with some non-stick parchment paper. I know it's tempting, but don't touch this with your fingers as it is red hot, as it will burn those little baby fingers of yours. So allow it to cool down fully at room temperature first. And then once cool, it should be nice and firm like this. And there you go, you've made homemade brittle. Give yourself a pat on the back. And now you're going to break the brittle up into small pieces, and whilst your fruit processor is running over low speed, gradually add in 3/4 of your nut praline so that you got some nut butter left over for presentation, and process together until it forms a nice smooth paste. But don't get me wrong, this will not happen immediately. This will take about 5 to 10 minutes there and thereabouts. You just need a bit of patience. And that's it, that's how you make praline paste. This is such an incredibly versatile thing. You can use praline paste in so many different ways when it comes to desserts. And it will last approximately 2 weeks at room temperature, but just make sure it is thoroughly covered. And now before we finish off the filling, we've got one more job to do. We're going to be making something called a brown crumb dough. This is going to improve your overall experience of having a Paris-Brest. It's going to give a really nice crust on top of the choux pastry once it's baked. So into the fruit processor, combine together 55 grams of all-purpose flour, 63 grams of soft light brown sugar, 8 grams of cocoa powder, and 50 grams of unsalted butter. And process until it starts to clump together. This will take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes depending how powerful your fruit processor is. And then roll it out between 2 non-stick mats until you achieve 5mm in thickness, then pop in the freezer for half an hour to firm up. And now once frozen solid, carefully remove the non-stick mat and brush the surface of the dough all over with egg white, then evenly sprinkle over some hazelnuts which have been slightly toasted and roughly crushed. And then place your non-stick mat or non-stick parchment paper on top, and using a rolling pin, press the hazelnuts into the dough. And now using a 6 to 7cm cookie cutter, cut out 6 circular discs, and any scraps that's remaining you can always reuse. And now carefully using an offset spatula, remove from the mat and place it onto a tray lined with some non-stick parchment paper, and then repeat with the remaining. And now you're going to put this in the freezer for half an hour to firm up. And then once firm, you want to use a 3cm cookie cutter to cut out the centers of each disc. And then cover with cling film and put it back into the freezer while we finish off the filling. So get yourself a nice large bowl so you got plenty of room to work with, and add your chilled creme, beat that until smooth, then add in 63 grams of your hazelnut praline paste, and once again you want to beat that again until wonderfully smooth and combined. Then once combined, add in 113 grams of unsalted butter, which should be nice and soft by the way, and then you want to beat the mixture again for another 2 to 3 minutes until well combined and it's nice and thick. And this is what I'm talking about. And now at this stage, make sure your oven is being preheated to 180 degrees Celsius. And remove your choux pastry from the freezer and place your frozen brown crumb discs on top of the frozen choux pastry one at a time, as they are very delicate. Then lightly dust them all with icing sugar and bake at 180 degrees Celsius for 40 minutes. Then immediately lower the oven to 160 degrees Celsius and bake for additional 10 minutes to dry it out. Then remove from the oven, and while still warm, lightly dust them all with icing sugar and place on a wire rack to cool completely at room temperature. And let's just take a second to admire how these look right now. These look great, don't they? That beautiful brown crumb hazelnut crust on top of the Paris-Brest. I mean, come on, that's a wow factor. I mean, just take a look at it, it looks fantastic. But it's not just about the look, it improves the texture and the flavour too. Once these Paris-Brests are fully cooled down at room temperature, we're ready for the fun, and that's the assembling. So get your Paris-Brest, slice it in half horizontally, not vertically, and pipe a ring of your hazelnut praline mousseline into the base of the Paris-Brest. Then pipe 3 to 4 dots of your leftover hazelnut praline paste into the mousseline, so then you got a little surprise at the end, if you know what I'm saying. On top was a bit more mousseline, but this time do a little swirling action so it looks fancy and very professional. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, get some of your leftover almond and hazelnut brittle, and then just dot it around so you get that crunchy crunch in every single bite. And top it off with the crown. And there you go, hazelnut Paris-Brest done. What a wonderful dessert this is. And there's only one last thing to do. Let's cut this thing open to see the crust section. And there you go, that is how you make Paris-Brest from home. I hope you give this one a go. This is such a fantastic dessert. It ticks every box, this dessert. It's got a fantastic flavour, the texture is unbelievable. If you present it in front of somebody, they'll be blown away, I guarantee it. If you wanted to, you could pipe one large 16cm ring of choux pastry instead of doing little mini ones. But I'll leave that one up to you, that is your choice. And also, you can pretty much make everything ahead of time. If you enjoyed this video or you learned something, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, because that would be amazing if you could click that button, considering it's completely free. And once again, I hope you had a fantastic new year, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.